September the 5th, 2021. Guys, you're looking at a NOAA image from 5 days ago over the Gulf of Mexico. This is just after Ida. And there's two ships here. They're both 90 foot long. And they are out amongst a 14-mile long oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico that has happened. Now, I remember as the storm was coming in, I saw one comment or one question about someone had heard there was problems in the Gulf. And this is the first, and I've been looking for more information, and I found this a few minutes ago. But again, this is NOAA's imaging. And if you ever wonder about where I got the name BP, it was back during the British petroleum oil spill in the Gulf. And the Gulf has always been a paradise to me way before the BP oil spill. But we started covering, and we started covering the Bayou Corn sinkhole there that was another oil spill. And if you remember, we had Miss Bunny Shoemaker, she is a pilot and aircraft. She has one out of New Orleans, and she used to work for the Jet Propulsion Laboratory out of Pasadena, California. Very sharp lady. But we were raising money for her to fly not only over the BP oil spill, but also over Corn Bayou. And at that time, supposedly the BP oil spill had been capped, but there was still oil coming from it. And what had ended up happening, and nobody talks about it, was as they were capping that BP oil spill on the Horizon rig. Anyway, the pressure was so great that it cracked all the way down the side of that salt dome. And so I'd heard about that, and then 10 years later, a few years back, I was down on my sailboat in Florida in Perdido Key at Southwind Marina, as a matter of fact. And the government had rented time from some surveyors that worked in the Gulf of Mexico, and they were stationed at the marina where we were at in our sailboat. I got to meet some of the guys, and they were about to go out for a 2-day survey into this area. And I said, guys, I've seen airplane images years ago that showed that the BP oil spill was still leaking. And they said, well, no, we hadn't heard anything about it at all. And I said, well, just check on it for me. And they did. And 2 days later, when they pulled back into the marina, I was there. And the guy's eyes were real big. He said, BP, you were right. He said, there's oil all over the place back, out in the Gulf, in that area of the Deepwater Horizon. And so that was kind of a game-changing time of my life, and where I decided to get into trying to understand and report on this. And again, comes back from the times way before this, from sailing out to Cat Island and spending weekend after weekend out there, and dolphins and whales and any type of wildlife you could imagine. And then the oil spill came in, and wildlife was devastated. But now, because of Ida, we have a lot more problems. Again, you're looking at two 90-foot-plus vessels out here, and what they're saying is that they were blaming a company called Talos, that one of their rigs was leaking, but the two boats that you're seeing are Talos boats, and they're out there trying to do some containment. But they're saying it wasn't their rig, that they had quit drilling there in 2017. But guys, that's just the top of the story. But guys, there's been over 200 reports of oil and gas spills since Ida. Let me read from this article. It says, this is big 14-mile-long oil spill in the Gulf, investigated by the Coast Guard. Today's timestamp. It says the U.S. Coast Guard is responding to a 14-mile-long oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico discovered in the aftermath of Hurricane Ida. Officials said Saturday, according to Bloomberg. The spill, which consists of a 4-mile sheen and a 10-mile rainbow sheen, is located in federal waters off Port Fourchon, one of the harder-hit areas. This is coming from Sam Jones, head of the Louisiana Oil Spill Coordinator's Office. He said, "That's big." Jones said in an interview on Saturday, "It's the biggest one out there," which means there's multiple ones. The Coast Guard said in a statement that crude is believed to be coming from a pipeline owned by Houston-based oil and gas exploration company Talos Energy, adding the agency was in the preliminary stages of investigation. In response, Talos said that while it's leading a response to the spill, and that's the two 90-plus feet vessels you saw in that image, it denied being responsible, saying again that spill was coming from an unknown source in an area where it ceased production in 2017. It goes on to say that extensive field observations indicate that Talos assets are not the source. The company said in the statement, Talos will continue to work closely with the U.S. Coast Guard and other state and federal agencies to identify the sources of the release and coordinate a successful response. Talos said it deployed two 95-foot response vessels to conduct oil recovery operations at the site, as well as an additional vessel and divers to help locate the source. That's what you're seeing in the images. The big spill wasn't the only one. Jones said his agency had received 265 reports of spills and other incidences related to Ida, including 32 that appeared to be serious. Among them were two underwater pipelines apparently transporting gas and a gas well that blew in Three Bayou Bay in Jefferson Parish. The agency is investigating who owns those assets. It seems that you would know whose assets were in these bayous and these bays. You're taxing them. Meanwhile, multiple releases of crude have been reported in the Gulf of Mexico, including one near an offshore rig in the Gulf. This is according to the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality. The agency has reported more than 100 incidences of spills and other toxic releases as Ida's environmental impact in a petrochemical corridor. And that's what the Gulf and Louisiana is, and part of Texas, with hazardous chemical plants and refineries begin to become apparent. There was a lot of concern about this, and what's going to happen is not only environmental catastrophes, but you're going to be dealing with the price of oil and gas going up. The type of accident we are seeing is preventable and shouldn't be allowed to happen, said Naomi Yoder, a staff scientist at Healthy Gulf, a New Orleans-based environmental group that has reported several spills to the authorities in the wake of Ida. It is something we are going to be able to repair, or is it something that will be a very long-term process? Guys, how do you repair those type things? You remember the struggle again with the Deepwater Horizon and BP. Now, Naomi Yoder also added that during Hurricane Ivan, remember that, Florida? I remember coming through Pensacola, going down there, and that bridge on I-10 was gone. Hurricane Ivan in 2004 triggered an underwater oil spill that is still leaking. So it was very poor planning to begin with to put something that destructive into one of God's most beautiful gulfs, and that's the Gulf of Mexico, and it occurs all over the planet. But again, I was looking for more information on the impact of 150 mile per hour winds coming in, especially after we saw those huge transmission towers taken down along the Louisiana coast. So guys, don't know what to say about it. I don't know what they're going to be able to do about it, but it looks like the times that we have been concerned about for a long time are coming true. It's a heads up, guys. Be safe.